Born in 1451 in the Republic of Genoa, Italy, Christopher Columbus was born to Domenico Colombo and Susanna Fontarossa. His passion for voyages started at a young age. At 19, he traveled the seas as a pirate. He married a noblewoman, Felipe Perestrello, and had a son, Diego, in 1480. After marrying Felipa, Christopher begins to ask kings to allow him to search for trade routes in the Indies. Felipa died and Columbus moved to Spain. After this, he soon meets Dona Beatriz Enriquez de Arana and marries her. He had another son named Fernando in 1488 with Beatriz. He again asked another king this time, King Ferdinand, but he refused. As Columbus was about to sail somewhere else, Queen Isabella changes her mind and decides to supply Columbus with whatever he needs. He gained knowledge to the Atlantic by going on different expeditions to Africa. Since travel through India and China were difficult from the domination of the Muslims, Columbus came up with a plan to sail west to go east. Columbus has 4 important voyages. The first one, they reached the Bahamas, Cuba, and Hispaniola. In these new places, Columbus establishes the first settlement in the New World. The second voyage had much more men and ships as believes he could find new lands now. Columbus goes back to Hispaniola, establishes a Spanish settlement, and searches for gold. He returns and then embarks on the third voyage, which was to Trinidad. After landing near spread to Spain that there were problems in the Spanish settlement and that was due to Columbus being stubborn. He goes to Santo Domingo and is immediately imprisoned because a man named Francisco de Bobadilla believed that Columbus considered himself ruler of this country. They are sent home in chains and then sent back to Spain, where after a couple months, Columbus leaves for his 4th and final voyage. He was looking to explore uncharted areas, but hurricanes and other natural disasters destroyed the ships, and Columbus was stranded on an island. Columbus was stranded on Jamaica for about a year, until he was able to finally return home to Spain in 1504. 2 years later, he died. Columbus was a great man. He explored the Americas and led the way for many other travelers. He set a precedent that was followed by travelers for hundreds of years to come. Now here's a little clip of the priest and a good friend of his, Vincent Pinzon, talking at his funeral. Thank you all for coming here today to commemorate the death of Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus was an honorable man who founded one of the greatest discoveries ever, America. Some of his crew might have said he was a greedy, lying, and cheap captain, but really, they were just jealous of him. He was a brave man for being one of the first to sail from the west to the east across the Atlantic. He also had to be a strong captain, for he was in charge of 3 ships, the Santa Maria, the Pinta, and the Nina. He had to make sure no one got out of line, and if they did, they would walk the plank. Christopher Columbus needed money, ships, and a crew to make his voyage possible. So he went to Spain to seek out King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella to ask for a grant. At first, they denied him of these things, for they thought it was a poor investment. But as he was sailing to France to ask their king, Queen Isabella thought that it was actually a good investment, so they stopped him and decided to grant him the essentials that he needed. Once he set sail, they failed at finding China, but instead found a greater discovery, the Americas. He was able to find gold, spices, and Indians, but was also able to help Spain by giving them 90% of the findings that he found. He returned to Spain, making himself a hero. Now, would anyone else like to say a few words about Christopher?
Thank you, priest. My name is Vicente Pinzon. Columbus was a great man. I sailed with him in his first voyage. I was the captain of the Nina. We left Spain on August 3rd, 1942 to find a water route to Asia. It took us 2 months, but we finally found land. When we first found the land, we thought we had found China and Japan, but instead we found the Bahamas. The voyage was looking like a complete waste of time, but then Columbus took us to one more place, and that was Hispaniola. There we found a large amount of gold. Columbus was the type of guy that wouldn't stop until he found something that benefited everyone. He was persistent and a sharing man. Even with all the gold, he still shared it with Spain. It's a shame to see such a good explorer pass away, because if he had lived longer, who knows what else he could have discovered. Thank you all for coming and giving me your time and attention.